Hey everyone, this is Rebel Heart Rose. Uh, returning to read the long chapter called The 10th Wonder of the World. And it's by David Bischoff. Adventures of Xena. Before we get started, I do have a book that I put in, I think, the descriptions, the link on my profile. I think I put it there for you to go check out. It's on Amazon.com. My book of poetry. You can buy it. So now we're going to go on to the chapter. I know there's a space shuttle that's supposed to be launching. So bear with me if I keep. Let's see. I know SpaceX aiming for a night launch of 4 on first private flight. I know it's on the that's happening tonight. Happening now at A.O. Brown Wonder on board. So on to reading A 10th Wonder of the World. It was tough sometimes being a warrior princess, especially when you started off able to do just about anything you cared to, and then found a conscience. Xena, warrior princess, was musing on this the very day she got a chance to be a villain again. Thanks to Simonius, she woke up in a foul mood and felt like kicking something, or preferably somebody. Sleeping on the other side of the dead campfire was Joxer, something less than warrior prince. Joxer was snoring. In fact, Joxer was snoring very loudly, which was what had woken Xena up at this early hour. The doofy, bad excuse for a soldier sounded like a titan gargling rocks through a megaphone. Xena's first impulse was to get up and cut off the megaphone, and if the offensive head came off too, well, so be it. Gods, said Gabriel, Xena's friend and chronicler, sitting up, her blonde hair tousled and matted. Who's attacking us now? Xena drew her sword. Her buckles rattled as she stalked. Axes across the across the campsite. Joxer's demons. Joxer's demons. I'm going to exorcise them. Hark! Commented Joxer. Hark! Xena! Said Gabrielle admonishingly. It seemed as though she were back years and years ago, back when she could do whatever she wished, whenever she pleased, and the wind was in her hair and anger was in her blood. Gabrielle, I'm doing the world a favor. Xena! We all have annoying habits, said Gabrielle. Yes, but Joxer's habits are all annoying. But Zeus, by Zeus, your war cries, for instance. Boy, they sure get my goat. Abruptly, Xena's crabby feeling wrenched away from Joxer. She squinted below her brunette bangs. Her teeth clenched. What's wrong with my war cries, little Miss Perfect? I mean, come on, Xena, Gabrielle said. She lifted up her childlike nose and opened her mouth. A, a frightful ululation rose up toward the treetops. A rank of birds screeched away and a group of squirrels ducked for cover. It sounds like Aphrodite looking in the mirror and finding it as it. Fingernails on a cave wall, Xena. I'll give you fingernails, said Xena. She showed Gabrielle her hand, clawed up like a harpy's. Only once she had it out, she realized that how ludicrous it looked and choked back a laugh. Hmm, yes, you and Callisto and a cat fight, said Gabrielle. I'm afraid she'd win to scratch your eyes out in a flip of a dinar. Of a dinar. They both started chuckling. Xena felt better. Gods, what would she do without this sweet and intelligent person by her side? Gabrielle not only kept her sane in a world of crazy gods, cranky monsters, and far too much adventure, she helped make life rich, wonderful, and sometimes funny as Hercules with a Charlie horse. Just don't tell that to the bet makers, she said, pinching her friend's chubby cheek. A clueless whine rose up from the prostate lump below them. Would you two shut up? I need my beauty sleep. Joxer rose just long enough to give his female companions a nasty look, then rolled over and sent back to sleep. Gabrielle raised an eyebrow. Sorry. Go ahead. Kill him. Hades would never forgive me, said Xena. You're right. Are we up? Up and ready for the road to Athens, said Gabrielle. Good. She sheathed her sword. You deal with the horses? I get to kick Joxer's skinny butt. I was sort of hoping I could. Tell you what, let's just tickle him. He's so much more amusing that way. The warrior and the storyteller surrounded their friend, gazing down with smirks. Oh, it's fun to be mean sometimes, said Xena. Joxer squirmed and yelped to both their extreme satisfactions. The road to Athens. Xena knew it well. It was a good road, one with just enough thieves and brigands to keep her skills honed. Olive trees, blue skies, the invigorating sun of Greece. Ah, it was good to be alive sometime. And moments like this, with a cool, whispering breeze whipping her night black hair, and the taste of a jerky breakfast still in her mouth, and the prospect of a decent bath ahead of her. Yes, these were the moments that gave Xena's life exactly what it needed. She'd taken and given her share of pain. Now that she was past that conquering and destroying nonsense, she could poke her handsome nose up and take a good clean sniff of, ooh, Joxer, is that you? What? The soldier grunted moodily. He hadn't said much at all since the tickling episode, which was not like Joxer, who made chatterboxes sound positively reticent at all. Something smells like a bull ox in heat. You're upwind from me, and all I see ahead is bright red and blue flowers, green grass, and a bubbling brook. Xena was a woman of action. She kicked her heels into her beloved steed and moved downwind. Her offertory environment improved immediately. Oh dear, doctor, are you using that stuff this year of Sarsec gave you? Stuff? Said Xena. Perfume, aphrodisiac perfume to attract women, said Gabrielle, her voice tart. From ancient Egypt. Juxer! I was wondering why I had been gripped with uncontrollable desire, said Xena in a sing-song voice. Please, oh, stud of studs, drag me off my horse and ravish me. Take me, brave soldier. I want to feel your manly need. Okay, okay. I've dipped into a little something to get the ball rolling. I mean, women usually flock all over me, said Joxer. I mean, the ones that I want, anyway. He curled a lip at the sight of Xena and Gabrielle. But after a long trek, I like to smell good even before I have my bi-monthly bath. All right. Is that a good enough explanation for you? This aphrodisiac, what's it called? Said Xena. Pheromones, said Joxer suspiciously. And it's not an aphrodisiac. My personality attracts all the sweet women I can handle. Xena's eyes lit up. Pheromones? From Egypt? Joker. Those are ground up mummies. Nonsense. Look, I know Egypt. Do you know Egypt? I know Egypt, Joxer. Cleopatra herself has given me fashion tips. I hope that stuff didn't cost you much. It cost him 10 dinars, said Gabrielle. Boy, it does sting, doesn't it? She yanked Argo up to ride abreast of her friend. Have you got someone you're trying to impress in Borgo's Joxer? He's already impressed me, said Xena. And don't look now, but there's a group of sows hot on our heels with roses in their mouths. Borgos, that's right. We're hitting Borgos today, said Gabrielle. She swung around to look at the soldier with the floppy flap helmet. Joxer, doesn't that old girlfriend of yours live in Borgos? Borgos? The one who dumped you for the Spartan general? What's her name? It's on the tip of my tongue. I don't know what you're talking about, said Joxer. It is true that I have loved many a woman, and many a woman has loved me. I, after all, am a hot-blooded man, and a lover supreme as well as a soldier of skill and accomplishment. However, I have never, Gabrielle, been dumped. You know, Joxer, said Gabrielle. With a mouth like yours, you have to remember that you just talk about everything, and as a writer, I tend to write things down. In fact, Gabrielle reached down in her saddlebags and rooted around in her scrolls. I remember something very specifically you wrote, and it was about a woman you cared for, and it concerned Borgos and nonsense, said Joxer. Poppycock. Xena shook her head and smiled. Oh, the pride of men. She knew pride well enough as a warrior princess, but generally all that was well deserved and tempered with enough humor and modesty to make it palatable. However, it was generally not women who were struck down by the gods because their egos got too uppity. Joxer, beware hubris. Who? Pride, Joxer. said Gabrielle. When a man's head gets too big, the gods become upset and strike him down. Don't you know your Euripides? Euripides? Well, Aristophanes and I go out drinking together whenever we're together. He says, and I inspired a whole new kind of play. The soldier looked bright and happy. He's called it comedy. Well, hubris leads to tragedy, said Xena. Tragedy. She thought about tragedy a bit, and she thought sadly about the men she had loved. Suddenly she felt much more compassionate toward Joxer. She felt bad that she was giving him such a hard time, simply because he wanted attention from women who didn't ride around slaying monsters and saving the world for a living. Joxer, you know, Borgos, understand the women are particularly beautiful and soft and loving in this part of Greece. I have heard of many a man who has been loved here. That's not such a bad thing. Joxer, said Gabrielle, I want to see this. And so did Joxer, yes. That's true. I suppose it's the olive oil they use here. Very good for a woman's skin. You know, my dear mother swore by olive oil. And you know, there's all kinds of olive oil that can be used, too, for all kinds of food ailments and general lubrication. Gee, Joxer, you must use extra virgin olive oil, said Gabrielle. That's, that, I'm sorry. That was a beast. Gabrielle is funny. Jox grinned. I do. Extra virgin. Why do you think I am tan so nicely? Gabrielle shot Xena a look. Xena shook her head and lifted her eyes to Olympus. And sometimes she thought the gods were fools. Well, Burgos is all well and good, said Gabrielle. Personally, though, I'm eager to be in Athens again. Well, you should, said Xena. That's why we're going, isn't it? You're going to talk amongst some other storytellers, tell some stories, get some tips on hyperbole and metaphor. I know those girls, said Joxer. Ooh la la, all the same, you're right. Bargo's women will be just fine. He suddenly looked sheepish and sweet. And I have to admit, there is someone special there. I mean, there's someone who might be there, but it has nothing to do with this ointment I have on. Absolutely nothing. It was a ways to Athens, and they had decided to stay a day or two in Borgos, relax, take baths, get supplies, eat and drink. Borgos had a reputation for being a safe crossroads for travelers, and Xena intended to make the most of it. Adventures were all very well, but time to pause, reflect, and maybe even a stop at a temple for a little meditation might be a good idea. It took from them another 2 hours to reach the small town, and the whole day. Joxer's spirits rose. He regaled them with a story from his youth, so unencumbered by climax or even significant event that Xena quickly realized that it was the kind of tale that Gabrielle labeled a shaggy unicorn tale. Ugh, I'll get back to it. However, after they passed a few huts and cottages on the outskirts of the town, it didn't take long to figure out that something was up. Something quite out of the ordinary. "Xena, look!" said Gabrielle. "What's going on? A circus? A carnival?" She was pointing up to a huge sign at the edge of town, with an arrow pointing toward the city gathering spot. "Olympic Games? In a small town like this?" said Xena. "I don't think so." They were walking toward the town, leading their horses. It was hard going because of all the people heading toward the event. "It says wrestling, Xena. It has to be part of the games, or something leading up to them." Xena examined the letters. Yes, those were the letters that spelled out wrestling in Greek. But what was wrestling doing in Burgos? Xena was well aware of wrestling. It was a sport practiced by men, an organized sport. It was a marvelous person-to-person conflict of holds and takedowns and final pins that channeled men's aggressive natures into a fighting art. Wrestling was the stuff of champions, of Olympic Games, and it elevated humankind toward something noble. In fact, she'd had a boyfriend once who had taught her all about wrestling. His name was Ironicus, and he was a handsome young soldier who eventually had to leave her life. Yes, when she wrestled with Ironicus, whether she got the pin or he got the pin, they both liked it. And no matter who won on their private mat, they both ended up satiated winners a little later on. "Oh, yes, wrestling." Xena approved. "Good," she said. "This will be fun. We can watch some genuine athletic competition, drink some wine, eat some food. I can't think of a better way to relax after our baths." "I don't know," said Gabrielle. "I think I've had enough of sweaty men throwing each other around." Joxer cocked his head and threw it out his chest. "I happen to have won awards for my wrestling abilities." "Because you used olive oil?" said Gabrielle. "No, of course not. Because I'm good at it. In fact, however, before Joxer could regale them with accounts of his wrestling prowess, Xena heard an uproar. She looked off the road. A group of men were attacking a short, bearded fellow, kicking and roughing him up. The short man was outnumbered to the extreme, 1 to 6. In short, he was taking a nasty beating. Xena was no Hercules, so she had to work herself up to care. But a sentence from Gabrielle was enough to push her on. "Xena, they're beating up a little guy. The bullies. He needs help." Xena shrugged. Why not? She'd hoped to have a few days of rest, but frankly, she hadn't done her push-ups today, and this was a pretty good opportunity for exercise. She pulled one of the attackers around, a swarthy man with a mangy beard. "Hi, big guy. Why don't you pick on someone half your size?" The man tried to strike her, opening himself up for just what he got. A fist in the solar plexus. He doubled up and fell right into her knee. Gabrielle was whacking about with her staff, disposing of two of the attackers. Joxer was trying to get up after a bad stumble. Ignoring the fate of his mob companions, a fat man was punching the short, bearded guy. I want my money back, the man was yelling. I want my money back. Immediately, no problem. With interest. Shall I polish your sandals? Cried the man on the bottom. Xena recognized that voice. However, she was so into her warrior punch 'em up mode that she didn't even pause to try and put the voice and a name together. She just pulled the fat man up. Can't you deal with life with anything else but violence? Well, neither can I. Eyes blazing, she kicked him, then chopped him in the neck. The man went down in a moaning heap. Xena turned to the victim of this mass attack, lying on his back, scuffed and dirty and looking generally the worse for wear. He was short, with short gray hair, no muscle tone, a big nose, a paunchy stomach, flashy clothes, and a neatly grown beard. He smiled under a bloody nose. Xena, am I glad to see you? So Monius! Xena put her hands to her hips, feeling duped, a feeling she felt often around this man, whom she'd encountered far too many times. I should have known. Well, are you just going to stand there and be regal and superior? Or are you going to help your old dear friend up? Grudgingly, Xena reached down and pulled Salmonius up. Salmonius, schemer, supreme, con artist, player, the get-rich-quick king. Do you owe these people money? Said Xena. I wouldn't say that. Gabriel held back on a staff swipe and gawked over. Salmonius, you owe everyone money. A dinar here, a dinar there, said the man, shrugging. Soon everyone will thank me. I shall have dinars galore for all. Hey, said Joxer, could I talk to you about that bridge you sold me? Please, please. Can't you see I'm broken in half? I have to live to fulfill my earthly debts. And the despondent fellow, the guy that Xena had, said the despondent fellow, the guy that Xena had laid out struggled to his feet. Wow, I'd pay to see this Amazon in a cage match. A crooked smile cracked across Simoni's supple feather features. Xena, am I glad to see you? Cage match? Said Xena. Happy to see me? Simonius dusted himself off. Gentlemen, he said, raising his hands, I'm so glad you caught me. There's been a dreadful misunderstanding. I was just headed out here to greet the replacement for today's title match. Please, go back and tell all that we have a special fight today. A lost crack the boulder was unable to make it today. However, in his place against Skullface, we have straight from the Peloponnesian Rumbles, Xena the Magnificent. The men rising up looked at Xena, rubbing their sore spots. Looks good, said one. What about this one? Said the bearded fat guy. Yeah, gee, she's tough. Oh, yes, and her deadly tag team friend. No holds barred, said Simonius. It sounds like they're going to get into trouble. Yep. No, Scoot. Scoot! You'll have a sight you'll never forget. You've been just seeing the 10th wonder of the world warming up on you. Wait till you see what she has in store for Skullface. You know, China was known as the 9th wonder of the world. Then Xena's 10th? Yay! Rumblings of approval arose from the men. They got up and hurried away. Xena turned to Salmonius. You want to tell me what this is all about? She shook her head. Wait a minute. 2 and 2 are coming together. You're a sports promoter. You're putting on some sort of exhibition. Oh, Xena! Salmonius clapped his hands together with glee. Smart and beautiful. Yes, yes, wrestling. Xena, wrestling. That sign, said Gabrielle. Yes. You know I'm not bad with the old arm, said Jackson, flexing and showing a pretty miserable bicep. Not arm wrestling, said Salmonius, smiling. Wrestling? Said Xena. You've talked people into watching men hug each other, grunting for hours and hours. Oh, not that boring amateur stuff, said Salmonius, flapping his arm dismissively. That's for wannabes. I'm talking about something that I, Salmonius of Acme Incorporated, have devised. He clapped his hands together. And Xena is working better than my pouch Gorgons. I bought one of those, said Joxer. Cute little thing. I think Callisto stole it, though. Got any more? Oh, that was so last year, said Salmonius. And you know the gods are definitely smiling on me. Looks as though they were kicking your butt a moment ago, said Gabrielle. Oh, just a little bump on the nose of life, said Salmonius. But wrestling, Xena, not amateur wrestling. His eyes became big orbs of joy and greed. Professional wrestling. Professional wrestling, said Xena. Isn't that an oxymoron? Somebody called Hercules that once, said Juxer. Isn't that an insult? Professional wrestling, Xena. Pageantry. Sport. Carnival, said Salmonius, all wrapped with popcorn and wine at concession stands. Wonderful fun and a nice box office. I sure don't get it, said Gabrielle. You're telling me you figured out a way to get people to pay you to watch half-naked men roll around over each other? Yes, said Salmonius. Xena shrugged. Do we get to watch for free? You do, and Xena, I'll pay you to fight one of my guys. And Gabrielle, I'll pay you to announce a match and maybe even to tell a story. And Joxer, Salmonius looked over toward the eager warrior wannabe. Joxer, I'll pay you to keep your mouth shut. Joxer shook his head. I'm not very good at that. I'm very good at fighting, though. Then I'll pay you for both, though you'll have to be lower on the card. We can use some money for Athens, said Gabrielle. And I not only get to tell a story, sounds like I'm going to get a pretty good one out of this, too. Oh, yes, oh, yes. I'm so happy. Salmonius spread his arms out. Come, my dear friends. You've not only saved my hide, you've made me a very happy man. And something tells me that all of you will be a hit in Burgos this very day. The Xena sighed as she looked at her eager companions. Something smelled bad here, but then so did she, and it looked like they might just earn enough money for a few days of bathing here. On the outskirts of Burgos, in a glade, a goddess and a fairy princess sat under hair dryers. Oh, 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 Puck, said Titania, looking at her nails as they were being polished by an attendant fairy. I don't think this color quite goes with my eyes. What do you think, sweetie? The goddess took a drink of wine, then examined the proffered nails. Absolutely fabulous, darling. They will glow in the dark awesomely. Do you think Oberon will like them? Aphrodite, goddess of love, nodded. Oh, yes, yes, darling. Although I must say, chartreuse is rather bold for seduction. I myself go for the warmer colors, she sighed extravagantly, adjusted the fairy blowing on her hair after that delicious oleander shampoo. Oh dear, thou poor Ty could be so boring sometimes. She was absolutely obsessive about Oberon, which was odd, since she'd done absolutely nothing to put them together. And after that business with the guy with the jackass head that OB had laid down on his babe, sheesh, Aphrodite had told him that she could set her up with some other guy easy, but no, Titania had to be sweet and forgiving. The way she was going to give world class hypernatural bitches a good name. You know, Alfie, sweetie, said Titania, I just can't understand you. You can have any god in Olympus, any man on earth. You choose a solo chariot to drag your beautiful behind around in. Titania winked. So to speak. Aphrodite shrugged. Don't go there, Ty. Please. A girl has got to have a sense of individuality. You know, things weren't always so good for us. Like Hera was saying just the other day. In the days of the Titans, women were kept barefoot pregnant and making ambrosia sandwiches for the men's poker games. She smiled. Liberation is absolutely fabulous, darling. I'd advise you to try it sometime. What? And lose Obi? No way. He may have a thing for changelings, and he may puck up once in a while, but there's no guy who knows what a woman wants deep down better than Oberon. But I thought, sweetheart, that he was the very king, Aphrodite smirked. Sweetie, that's a very good reason I glow in the dark sometimes, said Titania. You just keep your warm colored nails off of him. That's all I can say. He's mine. Besides, I think you and Ares are really meant for each other. That bastard, said Aphrodite. As if one of my little boy Cupid's arrows went kaflooey one day. That's all. She examined herself in the mirror perfect. She kissed her image. What a delight it was to be perfect. She took another deep gulp of wine and held her goblet out for a refill. Well, I guess that Ares does get a little rough sometimes, him being the god of war and all, but he is absolutely gorgeous. And I've heard that he knows how to get a woman up to Olympian heights. Just heard. Mind you, no personal experience. So next, the little housefrau was probably going to suggest cards. She was fun to gossip with, but when she got to talking about settling down, it was purely Dullsville. I'm bored, said the goddess of love. Heard any good limericks lately? No, sweetie, said Titania. But I have to tell you, there's this utterly wonderful new thing going on. Do tell, said Aphrodite. Show is much better than tell. The fairy queen snapped her fingers. The bird bath pixel. An attendant fairy scampered off. In a trice he was back, holding a large bird bath, slopping a bit of water. With a grin he turned it sideways. Aphrodite flinched, expecting to get drenched. Instead, the water stayed in the bird bath and started to glow. Cool, she said. What is it? Oh, just a fancy vision mirror. Great way to follow mortal stuff, you know. What fools these mortals be. But you probably know that. I've had a giggle or two with Hercules. Demigod? Anyway, he's a hunk. And there's one that not even you could hold down. No, Ares is the one for you, sweetie. I'm getting bored again, said Aphrodite. Look, it's happening in Borgos tonight. And oh, it is so awesome. Aphrodite arched an elbow in a show me kind of way. Okay, let's have a look. The bird bath water flickered. An image fluttered into view. Aphrodite watched with faint curiosity. Titanium could get excited about very mundane things. Anyway, the very idea of a fairy finding out what was hot before the goddess of love was just too, too, too. Here it is. Look at this, said Titania. It was a large arena. In the middle of it was a square ridged by ropes. Two men were grappling with each other. At first, it looked like one of those silly old Olympian matches. However, the men didn't just stay in one place and grunt and groan a lot. They started throwing each other all over the ring. What is this? Said Aphrodite. It's it's this new invention, said Titania. Puck likes it. He says he's thinking about doing something with the fairies like it. It's called professional wrestling. Hmm. That was all well and good. Watching half naked men wiggle around was quite amusing. However, almost immediately, something else attracted Aphrodite's attention. There, by the ring, she said, standing up. What are they doing there? Who? Her! Butch Cassitophonos and the Sundance Bard. Xena and Gabrielle. I told you it was all the rage. And aren't they the hippest, sweetie? Aphrodite scowled. I'm the hippest. Me, Aphrodite. Why, I'm unstoppable without arms. With them, I'm more than anyone can handle. Not you, not Ares, not the warrior princess, and her girl Friday. Chill, girlfriend, said Titania. You are, but someone has to clue you in sometimes. And sometimes it's me, okay? Aphrodite nodded. She had felt a tantrum coming on, but she'd stopped it. She just had her hair done, after all. She watched the proceedings, and a smile started to creep up onto her blemishless, classically beautiful face. The newest rage, huh? And Xena is there? She said. I'm beginning to get an idea, Titania. And it's not only a perfect cure for boredom. I can fix that warrior princess once and for all. What's Xena done to you? I'm a goddess, and a damn good one, too. Do you think Miss Warrior Princess goes to my temples and worships me as she should? But Xena doesn't worship any god or goddess. Exactly. Which is why she has to be taught a lesson. Aphrodite smiled slyly. Say, Titania, why don't you and I go there, darling, and puck with their heads a bit? Titania grinned. I'm there, sweetie, faster than you can shake a spear. I see what they got there. I see what they did there. The crowd in the arena was huge. Xena was impressed. Whatever she could say about Simonius, he was an entrepreneur and showman supreme, where most people just settled for bread and circuses. When he was on, Simonius could conjure up cake and carnivals. Gaily colored banners fluttered all about. The smell of roasted chestnuts hung in the air alongside sweet wine and mirth and barbecuing, fish and goat. There were exotic dancers dancing hither and thither, and jugglers balancing balls, and the whole event had an attitude of anything can happen. Well, I guess I'd rather have a bath first, said Xena. But if I'm going to work up a sweating competition, why bother? Gabrielle and Joxer were sitting beside her under the awning. Exactly, plenty of time for that later. Gabrielle was busy scribbling something on a parchment. She seemed in some other universe. Xena understood she was composing something. At first, Gabrielle's artistic side was annoying. It meant that when Xena wanted attention from her friend, she couldn't get it. Gradually, though, when she came to understand her little bard better, she knew that she had to have these times drifting in the cosmos like some kind of dreamy kite. She'd come back soon enough, and when she did, she genuinely brought back something charming. Well, so where's Salmonius? Asked Joxer. He said he'd have something exciting for me to do. Well, he has to come back eventually if he wants me to wrestle, so... Well, I'm not sure exactly what the rules are, said Xena. There was there was what Salmonius had called a warm-up match going on, and Xena had to admit this professional wrestling stuff that the fellow had concocted was quite a bit more active than the pure stuff. At the base of the arena, surrounded by the crowd now, was a ring rimmed by rope, and in this ring, two burly guys looked as though they were going to tear it down before the real matches got started. One of the men in a red cape and purple shorts had been announced as Mr. Godlike. He's pumped. He'd pumped his muscles a lot and had kissed the air. And Jerry looked a bit like what Eos Uglus thought he was sometimes. The other guy was called Alexander the Greater. He had started immediately, pounding on his chest, creating quite a noise. Now he was winding up his opponent in the ropes and kicking him unmercifully. "Where the dignity?" said Xena. "Where's the grandeur? Where the majesty of sport?" "Gee, Xena," said Jocelyn, "no wonder Salmonius wanted you. Looks like you when you get in a fight. Joxer, your mouth, my fist. Let's not get them too close, okay?" "Okay, sorry." "Hey, it's kind of fun. I mean, look at them. They're flying all over the ring, and gosh, not one's out of the ring. They're all over the audience. Wow, this is kind of exciting." Joxer stood. "Alexander, get him, Al! Get him, Al!" "Joxer!" said Xena. "If the real Alexander heard you say that, he'd stop conquering the world and start conquering your skinny butt." Joxer, moping, sat back down. The match ended soon, but not until a few trash receptacles and audience members were thrown around. Sure enough, Alexander the Greater got his opponent down on the mat and held him there for 3 counts. Bam, bam, bam. The victor of the match was roundly booed, but the growing audience by the growing audience. But they seemed to enjoy the booing, and they seemed to be glad. "He didn't play fair," said Xena. "It's a contest, and he didn't play at all fair. Why did they let him get away with that? Why did they let him win? He shouldn't win. What's wrong here?" "I guess Salmonius is going to tell us all about that," Xena said. Joxer, "Look, here come the announcers." A great chorus of 20 men and women in the mask of comedy and tragedy filed out into rows in front of the ring. Ooh, this is going to be interesting. I'll have to take a little time. Oh. "Heed, O audience of stature and grace. Listen to the next chapter of this tale of glee and woe. Here comes another heel and baby face. The great big gorilla and the cathartic schmo." The chorus filed back out again. "What was that?" said Xena. "A fascinating narrative device," said Gabrielle. "Dramatic devices incorporated with sport. My goodness. Aristotle must be rolling in his grave," said Xena. "Gee, I saw Ari at the last Bardathon. He seemed pretty darned healthy to me." "He won't be when he gets a load of this," said Xena. "Zounds," said Joxer. "Get a look at those bruisers. And Xena, they've got more leather on than you." "What? Where?" Xena swiveled her head and immediately saw what Joxer was yapping about. From opposite sides of the arena, 2 men were making their way down toward the ring. One man was so bald, his head shone in the sun. He wore a leather collar, studded with spikes. He was dressed in black leather, that bulged with much more fat than muscle. He looked as though a permanent scowl had been tattooed onto his jolly face and sported a handlebar mustache with points as sharp as Xena's sword. The other guy looked like a beefier version of Hercules, with long, beautiful hair and gleaming teeth. He too wore leather, as Joxer had pointed out, only it was clearly well designed leather, much more to Xena's taste. As he descended the stairs, he would pause from time to time to flex his muscles for the audience. When they cheered, he would lean over, cupping his ears, as though to drink in every last bit of their praise. Schmo! 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 Cried the crowd. Grandstander, said Xena. Once in the ring, the pretty man held up his hands, held back his head, and yelped a war cry. Yep, yep, yep. Dexter laughed. Xena, that sounds just like you. Xena was not amused. Too high, she said. Apparently, the big bruiser in black leather and metal studs was not amused either. Even as a cathartic schmo was giving us vocal cords their extra his vocal cords their exercise, the gorilla pounced. He started pounding on his opponent with all his might, beating him to the mat. Hey, that match hasn't started yet, said Joxer. That's a villain. I'm going down and dealing with him, said Xena. She stood, but Gabrielle grabbed her arm. Hang on, Xena. Let's see what's going to happen. She grinned. Besides, a moment ago you wanted to do that to Goldilocks. Xena nodded. Yes, that was right. Clearly, as a member of the audience, she was allowed to revert to her previous nature. As she watched the great big gorilla throwing the cathartic schmo around the ring, she found a smile beginning to weep up around her lips. Hey, this was kind of fun. The match took another turn. Finally, the schmo reversed a hold. He laid the gorilla low. Pin him, cried Doxer. Pin him, Schmo. Schmo did nothing of the sort. Instead, he went to the corner and climbed up on the ropes to the top of the turnbuckle. Get up, gorilla, get up, cried Xena. The Schmo stood for a moment and raised his arms as though getting strength from Zeus himself. Then, as the crowd roared, Schmo launched himself out and out some more, and landed right on top of the gorilla with a huge slam. He killed him, said Joxer. That big guy's dead. He's going to bleed all over the place. I just know it. Joxer looked ill. Then finally, Schmo covered the gorilla, pinning him to the mat. The referee, who had thus far been standing well clear of all this, moved in and started slapping the mat. Uh, uh, at the very last moment, the gorilla pushed up with such strength that Schmo was launched a good 2 yards into the air. Yes, said Xena. Go, gorilla. But Xena, you are about to go down and pound that guy yourself. He's bad. He didn't steal anything from me, said Xena, eyes flashing. Around about 5 minutes later, After more leaps and bounds and crashes, the match ended with the cathartic Schmo finally drop kicking Gorilla to the mat, and then holding him down long enough for a count of 3. "What a fight!" said Joxer. "My goodness, it's even better than your fight, Xena, and without a chakram." The crowd cheered wildly. The gorilla snarled and showed them all his underarms as he got up, while cathartic Schmo blew kisses. Xena folded her arms together and mulled the situation over while Gabrielle and Joxer bought food and drinks from a vendor. They both seemed happy and gay and thrilled to be here. Xena was a little more cautious, however. It looked like Salmonius had a winner here, but then the guy's plans usually blew holes. If she hadn't happened along today, he'd be tied up on a tree branch by his thumbs now. Still, even though these wrestlers looked pretty ferocious, there was no question that she could take on any of them. That was what Salmonius counted on surely. The sight of a woman throwing a man around, that vision of speed and might and cunning and skill, and yes, art and beauty. That was Xena, the warrior princess, putting ugly brutes in their place. Even as she thought about the prospect of listening to the cheers of the rabble, as she laid blow upon blow to her opponent, as she flipped him and whipped him, a tiny smile crept over her face. The old Xena, yes, maybe the Xena of old, had her place. Maybe Xena the Conqueror could be let out today for a little air. Yes, and according to Salmonius, she would even be paid for her trouble. A hand fell on her shoulder. Xena turned around, ready to fight. "Whoa, Xena, friend and true believer, it's just me," said Salmonius. He grabbed a nearby chair. "Anything these 3 want all day on the house, and give them back any money they've given you." Salmonius rubbed his hands together, his eyes glowing. "So what do you think, my friends? What say you about my new entertainment scheme?" "I'm entertained," said Joxer, a mouthful of gyro. "When do you want me to beat the stuffing out of someone, Sal?" Soon enough, Joxer," said Salmonius. "Have some more wine. Eat, drink, be merry." Xena shook her head. "Don't tell that to Joxer. He'll eat so much he'll throw up all over his opponent." Salmonius' eyes glowed even brighter. "What a roar that would get. Quite all right. Quite all right. We'll fix you up in a special warrior's outfit, Joxer. Just relax and enjoy yourself." Gabrielle stepped forward. "I'm preparing a tale that will have all the audience laughing and crying at the same time. Don't tell me. The epic of Xena's new brass bra. Just kidding. Just kidding. Terrific. Just head over for wardrobe, Gabe. They'll want to fit you out in something appropriate for your performance." Xena fixed the slippery man with a frown. "What about me, Salmonius? I'm having second thoughts about all this." Salmonius' face fell. "But Xena, you're the main attraction. You saw what was going on a couple hours ago. With this crowd all worked up, if there's no main event, Why, they'll tear me apart. You don't want that, do you? A little tar and feathering might help your complexion, Simonius, said Xena. But no, I've made a promise, and as we keep on running into each other, I'm sure someday you'll be able to pull my fleece out of the fire. No, I'm just wondering who it is I'm supposed to be battling. After those last two, I have to wonder if I'm in a competition or a carnival. Yes, Xena, exactly. I don't want to lose my dignity, Simonius. Your dignity will remain intact, I promise. Who is my opponent then? Some smelly pile of hair beating his breast? Some cranked up egomaniac? No, Xena. You're going to be wrestling with a handsome, well-mannered fellow. I promise, a local favorite. He fights fair, he doesn't brag, and he even smells good. Thank Zeus for small favors, said Xena. Good. That match won't be for a little while yet. Another hour or so. Come on down to the backstage area. We'll spruce you up a little for the stage. They're going to love you, Xena. The crowd will just eat you up. Said Xena. Well, I guess there are worse ways to spend an afternoon. Excellent. Wonderful, said Salmonius. And look, here are the announcers to tell you what you can expect in the next match. You all enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you down in the backstage area soon. What a nice guy, said Joxer, already with a silly grin on his face from the wine. I like him a lot. Xena shook her head, still troubled. Something's fishy about all this. Very fishy indeed. Oberon, the king of the fairies, squirted some less lemon on a piece of squid sauteed in olive oil, then popped it into his mouth. He chewed for a moment, then washed it back with a swallow of drink from a goblet. How's the calamari, Aries? A little chewy for me, Obi. The king of the fairies shrugged. So have a brewski and don't chew much. Ares, god of war. Oh, this is gonna be good. Sat at the table in front of the feast that his host had laid out for him. There were fruits and cheeses galore. There were dishes of exotic fishes and stuffed grape leaves. There were pitchers of wine and vats of strong ale. A servant fairy was rubbing his neck. Ares didn't go in much for the seafood. He got inland. After hanging around in Poseidon's kitchens, you got spoiled. You had to face it. Fish was best fresh, and you couldn't get any fresher than eating it under the Mediterranean itself. But he hadn't come here to eat seafood. Ares snapped his fingers and held up his goblet. Brewski, whatever that is. The three fairies, back wings fluttering like anxious hummingbirds, lowered themselves and poured Ares a healthy portion of drink. My own personal homemade beer, Ares, said Oberon. Yeasty for the feasty. The strapping, half-naked guy belched and laughed. He wiggled off the last of his sandals and laid back his Grecian locks against the lounge a recliner and laughed. I break it out for so special occasions. Now I've got two reasons. Your visit, my good friend, and sport on the vision pool. In front of the pair of supernatural entities, two fairies patiently held up a bird bath. Its water, defying gravity, gave off a perfect image of sporting activities. Elsewhere, Aries only half paid attention. Something about odd-looking men grappling in an area in front of cheering fans. The only sport that Aries got much of kick out of was, of course, blood sport. Give him a couple of armies having at it over discus throwing any day. Some of these suds got on his perfectly groomed beard as he drank. Foul stuff. Tasted like old boots were somewhere in the grainy mix. But if he didn't finish it, he would certainly offend his host. He picked up a silk napkin and dabbed it off. What is this, anyway? Wrestling. And quite exciting, too, said Oberon eagerly. Why, the stuff in Athens pales. I don't know how they do it, but these mortals are quite inventive. Ares grunted. No swords, no arrows, nothing. Deadly. Scant blood, and no death at all? What's the use, I say? Oberon shrugged. Each to his own, pal. So to what do I owe the honor of your visit? I thought you were off on the other side of the world, getting the aborigines to bash each other to death with their didgeridoos. Ares shrugged. They're too busy dreaming to have wars. Better pickings in civilized countries, Obi. As a matter of fact, since I was in the neighborhood, I thought I'd drop by. It just so happens that my lieutenant in the Mischief and Mayhem Department tripped and fell on his sword and is now washing Hades' dishes. If you know what I mean. So I'm scouting for a new guy, and I can't think of a better candidate than that world-class scamp, Puck. I know, said Oberon flatly. I'd pay him well, and I'd pay you as well. I'm a wealthy god, Oberon. Not only that, I can promise you good luck in any wars in the future. Oh, right. The fairy wars. Come off it, Ares. Fairies don't have wars. We're too busy having fun. When we're not hiding from trouble in the forest, let soldiers and wrestlers fight, I say. Just call me a voyeuristic soul. Ares gritted his teeth. Damn, this is going to be harder than he thought. Of course fairies could have wars, but he didn't want to use that strong arm card unless he had to. But there were more ways to skin a sphinx than one. Where is the likely lad, by the way? Puck? Oh, he's not even around. I sent him off scouting for changelings. They grow up fast, those changelings. Gotta keep fresh ones in stock. Suppose I keep you in changelings for eternity, Oberon. You and Titania both. Just think, no more fights. No more midsummer night screams. Come on. Those are fun, Oberon winks. And you know, after a fight with Titania, the sex, ooh la la. Ares grunted. What he wanted to do was to take one of those fruits and calm down. Boyo, he told himself. Oberon was clearly a sporting soul, and sporting souls had Achilles' heels. While Oberon wasn't looking, he dumped the brewski in a flower pot and switched to wine for a while. He watched the proceedings of the sporting event that the Fairy King was observing. Life was good, too good. There had to be more war, more excitement. Mankind needed war to develop. Once they got what they needed, they could become like gods. And once that happened, he could be their number one god. Ares smiled to himself. Yes, and then he would take war a notch higher and put him on the throne where he truly belonged. Zeus had ousted the Titans. Sometime, surely, it would be Zeus's turn to move over for destiny. Yes, cried Oberon, standing. Go, Schmo, go! Ares fixed an eye on the events in the ring and the pool. Yes, a wrestling match, and a particularly wild one. Oh, he won't win, said Ares. He surely will. The gorilla hasn't a chance. I'll bet you 1,000 dinars the gorilla will win. Bet taken. They watched the match. The cathartic Schmo won. Ares pretended the loss of 1,000 dinars was a tough one. He paid up promptly, and Oberon pocketed it. You're right. This is most fascinating, Ares lied. He watched for a while longer, then said, Wait a moment. Isn't that Xena the warrior princess in the crowd? Yes. What a babe, eh? Too rough for me. But I can look, huh? Believe me, you can't handle Xena, said Harry, shaking his head with genuine rue. I sure would like to, said Oberon. Looks as though she's going to be wrestling today, though, so I can watch. I'd say, frankly, that the wench will win, and win decisively. You do you? Said Ares thoughtfully. So, who's she up against? Someone by the name of the Alexandrian athlete. Well, that sounds good to me. I'll tell you what, Oberon, I need a chance to win my money back. I'll bet you another 1,000 dinars. And, oh, this wonderful changeling prince in Africa I know of. Gorgeous child, and will do you proud. I'll bet you that the Alexandrian athlete will best Xena, the warrior princess, this day in their wrestling match. Not for puck, you villain! Oberon was grinning, eyes filmed with drink. No, but a wager's loss might have some sting for the loser and a reward for the winner. Shall we say Puck's services for a month? A month? Well, that's not too bad, said Oberon. Besides, Xena lose. I've been watching her. That wench is a winner all the way, Ares. And I've heard she's gotten the best of you more than once. Well then, Oberon, you'll want to bet with me and watch her do it again, eh? Oberon nodded with finality and extended his hand. Bet. They shook, and that was that. Ares loaded his plate with food, got himself another pitcher of wine, and settled down with the king of the fairies. Oh, I've got to get back to Olympus for a bit and tell the servants to hold off on the nectar and ambrosia for the evening. I mean, it's okay if I have dinner with you, isn't it? Of course, said Oberon. Just be back in time for the last match. I want to watch your face when you lose. Ares slapped his fairy friend on the back, then left the bower with a crooked smile on his face. Xena, Xena! Cried Salmonius. You're here! Xena looked around. The backstage area was total pandemonium. Along with her was Joxer and Gabrielle, both well wined and dined, and looking more than ready for their parts in the show. They seemed to take the noisy place in stride and totally trust Salmonius to tell them what to do. Xena, of course, was less trustful. Not only had she had her own experience with man, she'd had a few talks to Hercules and had heard some of Herc's encounters. The big-hearted lug was more amused by Salmonius than she. His inventions were particularly funny to Hercules, but worst of all, sometimes Herc thought they made sense. Fast food? Xena could hear the demigod's good-natured voice now. Now that idea has a future. Future schmoocher. Now was always the important thing to Xena. She had a black past and a doubtful future, so she took exactly what was her plate, wolfed it down with zest, and squat the seeds out at the gods. Generally, anyway, she couldn't help the do-gooder part that had taken over, and look at where it got her. In the middle of bread and circuses, with Salmonius grinning at her through a mouth smeared with jam and butter. Ooh. Yes, I'm here, Salmonius. Where's my opponent? Says Xena. That's a very good question. That's okay, the athlete wasn't the guy that people wanted to see. Now you're the person the crowd wants to see fight. But we'll find you someone quite fit to fight. If absolutely necessary, we'll just glue a wig onto the gorilla. Xena made a face. What kind of contest is this? A brand new sword, Xena. And you can see that the people love it. And what is Greece? Why, absolutely nothing if not a democracy. Democracy, said Xena. What's that? Never mind. Look, why don't you just go over there and they'll set you up with makeup and a costume? Costume? What's wrong with what I have on now? Salmonia stood back and examined her. Brass bra, lots of leather and studs, a bounty of bare flesh. Come to think of it, you're quite right. But I think you might need just a touch more mascara plus a whack of the old pancake. I'm not wearing breakfast for anyone. Look, trust me, you're going to look fabulous. And speaking of fabulous, where's fabulous? Here's Joxer. He put an arm around Joxer. Joxer, you're up next. I am, said the wobbling warrior with a silly smile on his face. Good. Who do I wrestle? I'm ready. Excellent. And Gabrielle, You can do your little reading or whatever before Joxer goes to it with his opponent. Then all you have to do is to announce the match. Gabrielle smiled. Piece of cake. Salmonius hustled them over to wardrobe and makeup. Psst, came a voice from behind Xena. Hey, hot stuff. Like que pasa, Dudette, leatherette? Can I borrow your lipstick? Xena looked over to the stands. Oh my gods! Trouble comes in pairs. Sitting in the stands were two women. It was the one in the shawl and robe that bothered Xena. Despite the extra clothing for the usually overexposed vixen, she recognized Aphrodite. The other woman, just as beautiful, if not more so, she didn't know at all. She was also dressed in a robe that hid all but her face. Her blue eyes stared out with curiosity and mischief, and a Bacchus make hair sparkle that only an immortal could own. Xena, this is my good friend Titania, Queen of the Fairies, said Aphrodite. I'm not going to touch that line with a 10-foot minotaur, said Xena. But anyway, hello, I'm Xena. I know, warrior princess. Your reputation precedes you, said Titania. I understand you're going to stand up for womankind in battle today against the nasty old male. We're here to give you some sisterly support, said Aphrodite. Yeah, right. We're here to cheer for you, Xena, and roundly jeer the opposition. Who would believe that? Xena sighed. Boy, this was the pits. When sporting events attracted the attention of goddesses, there was more trouble than she cared to handle. Why, oh why had she picked up ethics? She'd promised Salmonius that she'd fight, and now she knew for certain that she should be making like a fig tree and leaving. She took a deep breath. Best to keep this as dignified as possible. Xena bowed. I thank you, Aphrodite. I thank you as well, Titania. I am honored by your interest. I beg for your approval in this effort in the name of our sex. The two supernaturals giggled. You're right, said Titania, so earnest. She's a heroine, don't you know? Said Aphrodite. The goddess started fluttering her eyelashes. We can't all be helpless waifs waiting in high white towers for men to rescue us. We can't all be Helens of Troy with men fighting for us. We women need powerful symbols of steel and fire to put us right up there with those arrogant guys. I do like those sandals, Xena. Where do you get them? Asked Titania. I took them off a warrior I just beheaded, said Xena. She was becoming annoyed with these sprattling pretties. A big-footed warrior, said Aphrodite. Whoa! But then she was probably sleeping at the time. He was probably sleeping at the time. I say we have a winner here, said Titania. I like her. Xena, be assured that I am betting on you in your upcoming wrestling match. Xena bowed. I am grateful for the vote of confidence. She turned to Aphrodite. Is that why you've come here, Aphrodite? To win money by betting on me as well? Actually, I was hoping to get hairstyling tips from your friend Gabrielle. The goddess shrugged. Just leave them at my nearest temple. We tend to avoid your temples. The goddess's eyes flashed. And just why is that, Xena? Is there no feminine solidarity in this universe? Frankly, I think we should get this love thing straightened out. So there's not so much suffering involved here in this world, said Xena. The day you get real, Aphrodite, I'll be worshipping you day and night and day. Real? Real? I don't know what you're talking about, said Shumi Aphrodite. I am what I am. You mortals have no control whatsoever. Ooh, claws in, sister, said Titania. This one has spunk. I like her. She's a troublemaker, said Aphrodite. That's all right. She'll age. And then she'll be kissing my marble two toesies with all the rest of the groveling female mortals just for a whiff of that sweet, sweet stuff, love. You know, Aphrodite, said Xena, you peddle the stuff like opium. You gods are what you are, that's for sure. We mortals get to choose. That's life, Aph. I'm here now doing a friend a favor. I saved his life, and I just want to do what's right. Used to be, I was angry. So angry I don't think I was really human. But being human means something. Love, I guess that's a part of it. But only a part of it, Aphrodite. With all due respect, I'm just trying to do what's best and that what's right for the few mortal years I have to me to make this world a better place. This is why I love Xena. There's that right there. Aphrodite sniffed. By besting some male wrestler? Far too long mankind has suffered under the yoke of life. But women have suffered under the yoke of life and of mankind, Aphrodite. I just want to show women that the odds can be evened a bit. I like her, said Titania. I like her a lot. Hot air, said Aphrodite. We'll see how she fares in the match. In any case, I told you it would be amusing. Didn't I, Titania? Oh, and it truly is. My blessings on you, Xena. Xena bowed to Titania. Then she made a mock courtesy to Aphrodite and spun on her heels and headed off to watch the proceedings in the ring. The supernaturals were here. Things were getting weird. Anytime fairies get involved, or Puck, or Oberon, Midsummer Night's trauma, this is going to be good. Oh, the noise! The terrible noise! Banging and clanging! Such a dreadful din, thought Ares as he stood outside the hulking manse. Carefully he stuffed wax into his ears, just as he always did when he visited his cousin, and then went into the heat and flashes of the factory. Hephaestus was working as usual. He was by his forge, with his hammer and anvil, banging away to beat the band. Fest, said Ares, waving at him to attract his attention. Yo, cousin, Hephaestus! Hey there, what's up? The huge, swarthy god grunted. Apollo's chariot wheel. Damned speed dingman. I keep on telling him, slow down. Slow down. You think he listens to me? No. So while he sports with a woman, I get to fix his flats. His Festus was not only big, he was squat and very ugly. He had muscles upon muscles, too. And if there was a god of big apes, it was his cousin Fest. Sweat revolted down his chest. Ooh, sounds frustrating. Sounds like you could use a bit of fun, said Ares. Oh. I don't go in for battles, Ares. You know that. What do you want? Let's just say I just want to let you know that I respect you, Fest. I do. And I'm watching out after your interest. So you need a new sword, new armor? You're so thoughtful. No, Fest. There's this mortal down on Earth. She's been saying things about you, terrible things. I just thought you should know. The god stopped his work. Saying things? What things? Who? Xena, warrior princess. The god's big brow furrowed. He looked hurt. I know of her. Bad girl gone good. What's wrong with me, though? Good? Well, if you can call it good, she absolutely gone puffed up with pride, if you ask me. She's going around saying that she's such an amazing fighter that she can wrestle any man. A smile cracked his ugly mug. That woman? She probably could. Fast, she's saying that she's so good she can probably beat a demigod. The stumpy god grunted. Hasn't she given Hercules a heave-ho or two? So good, she says that she can even wrestle a god. Ares' eyes glittered. Hurroof. Well, that's overweening pride, isn't it? Hubris. Hmm. Getting a bit uppity doesn't sound like Zeus should get her with a thunderbolt, though, does it? The gruff guy chuckled. Waste of good woman flesh, I say. Ares, maybe you should take her down a peg or two. Actually, Xena says that she couldn't best me, only the lower, insignificant gods. She said, gods like, say, Hephaestus. The god stopped banging. He turned, squinting at Ares. She said that? Want to see an instant replay? I can conjure it for you. I can conjure it, you know. Spare yourself. Wouldn't it be fun, Fast, if you gave Xena her compliments personally? Zeus wouldn't mind. Hera would appreciate it. Xena's down there now, taking on all comers. All you have to do is to pin her to a mat. 1, 2, 3, that's all. Festus grunted. I know you're busy, but you deserve a rest. It would be a good lesson for Xena, and a break for you. What would Apollo say? Look, you've got plenty of whales around here. Give him one of those. The god of war got close to the burly being and whispered in his ear. Besides, imagine getting all that leather and bouncy flesh, pounding it onto a mat, covering it with your vast and powerful frame, feeling her squirm beneath you, making her cry out, Hephaestus, you are the most vulcanizing man in the universe. Okay, that's Ares wanting to do that to Xena. He's putting his fantasies into Hephaestus' head. The god's big nostrils snorted. His eyes were red. She does deserve to have her big behind kicked, doesn't she? Are you god enough to do it, Fest? Yes, I am. With a growl, the god slammed his jaw down with a clangor that echoed through hall. Lead on, Ares. Citizens of Greece, proclaimed Gabrielle. I come to you today with a timeless tale of heroism, and courage. What a cutie! Someone yelled. How did you squeeze into that outfit, babe? Looks like you're trying to squeeze out already. Xena winced. She could barely watch the proceedings, but she had to. It was like watching a chariot wreck. Gabrielle stood in front of the town of Burgos in a two-piece, purple and red, something that was really closer to a purple and red nothing. Her hair had been teased into a garish cloud, and so much makeup had been trowed into her face that she looked like an Athens prostitute. The only thing that could have possible kept her going up there was that she drank a considerable amount of wine. I tell you a tale of the brave and noble Joxer, warrior supreme, she said. Someone threw a piece of rotten fruit. Cut to the fight! We want the main event! Joxer, the mighty and brave soldier, the warrior with moxie. Listen to the tale of this encounter with the evil Callisto. Salmonius shook his head. I thought the outfit would work. Crowd's too worked up. Excuse me, Xena. He went up to the edge of the ring. Gabrielle, looks like they want some action. Just announce the fight. But I have an epic story to tell. Poor Gabrielle was weaving. Just say Jocular Joxer versus King Slammer. Sage whispered Salmonius. Right, friends, Greeks, countrymen. I give you Jocular Joxer versus King Slammer. I'll clobber him, I'll nail him, I'll beat him bad, said Joxer, psyching himself up. Out of his usual ridiculous outfit, the fellow looked even more ridiculous. Salmonius had robed him in some kind of furry yellow tights with red ribbons on the shoulder. He still wore his floppy-eared helmet, which he had insisted on, making him look even more ludicrous. Coming down the aisle on the other side of the arena was the man whom Gabrielle had announced as King Slammer. He was 7 feet tall, with hands the size of hams. He wore a black eye patch and a bull-sized ring through his nose. He hardly seemed to have to even lower the ropes to get into the ring. I have to fight him, said Joxer. Go get him, brave warrior, said Salmonius, pushing Joxer towards his fate. Again, Xena had to wince. She felt helpless. No way she could help her friend and companion here. This wasn't a matter of life and death. Joxer would be all right, she hoped. Fortunately, the ordeal was over for everyone, including Joxer, with startling swiftness. Joxer finally game, put up his fists in a comic attempt to fight the mammoth. However, King Slammer easily avoided one blow, caught another in his big hand. He grabbed Joxer by the side, lifted him up, and then up some more. Oh, said the crowd. Oh, said Gabrielle. King Slammer brought Joxer down on the mat so hard, Xena's teeth hurt. The impact exploded out to the crowd. Then the behemoth fell upon the fallen hero. The referee fell to his knees, slapped the mat 3 times. That was all for Joxer. The crowd went wild. King Slammer bounced to his feet and jounced, absorbing the applause. What a pop! Cried Salmonius. What a pop! Joxer's head went pop, said Xena. No, Joxer's fine. That's just an expression. It means an audible sweep of excitement through the crowd. Let me look at Joxer's head first, said Xena. The referee was helping the fallen warrior out. Surprisingly, Joxer was quite conscious. Joxer, are you okay? What happened? Said Joxer. Yes, I'm okay. And I'm ready to fight. Let me at him. Let me at him. It's over, Jox, said Xena. You go off and have another drink. I'm just glad you're alive. Joxer shook his head. I'm still ready to fight, however. He allowed Gabrielle to lead him away. He's not only still alive, he still wants to fight. That kind of fall should have put him out for a day. Salmonius grinned. I wouldn't let that happen to a friend, he said. This is pro wrestling, Xena, which brings us to a little matter I need to deal with. You're up right after this next match, and I need to speak to you about something. Xena shrugged, baffled. All right, Salmonius. Salmonius waggled his finger. Why don't we come over here and have a little chat, shall we? He gently led Xena to an enclosed area, out of earshot of anyone else. Now, Xena, you've been very good to help me out here. Everyone is very excited about the match. And they will be more excited, said Xena, when I win. Simonius kept his grin, but it lost some of its luster. That's what I need to speak to you about, Xena. You see, there's something about pro wrestling that obviously you don't understand. What's not to understand? Oh, well, Xena, let's put it this way. I need you to put your opponent over. You bet I will, right over my shoulder onto the mat. Xena mimed her decisive, victorious move. Oh no, Xena, you need to lose, said Salmonius. He was still smiling. Lose? You mean lose the match on purpose? Xena could not help but betray astonishment. Throw the match? That's right, it's called a work. Xena grabbed the little man by the front of his shirt and yanked him forward. You mean you bet against me? You wretched... Of course not. He chuckled, then flinched a bit. Oh, well, maybe a dinar here and there, but total suckers or losers. But can't you tell, Xena, does this look real to you? Xena felt that somehow reality had cracked below her feet, and she was about to tumble into total chaos. Fighting had been her life for so long. The whole idea of fights that were not actual fights, but so-called works, was blasphemy. You charlatan, she said. I'm going to rip your tongue out and feed it to the dogs. I'm going to tear your heart out with my teeth and then spit it into the sewers. I'm going to... Oh, Xena, wonderful. Save it for the fight. Tell that to your opponent, Xena. You're absolutely perfect. You'll make the other wrestlers look like flower pickers. Xena let him go with disgust. Damn him. Simonius knew her well enough to know she wouldn't hurt him. Not really. What about Joxer, though? That looked real. You didn't tell him to put his opponent over, did you? Joxer, why bother? What a loser. You're cruel, said Xena. You're heartless and cruel. Xena, I've never killed anyone, said Salmonius calmly. I give value for money. Sometimes I play a little fast and loose with reality and illusion. He shrugged. But maybe I learned that from the gods, eh? The gods? There are no moral lessons there. You tell me about morality, Xena, when all the blood is off your sword. When what I'm doing now is a show. It's fun. The people like it. It's a hell of a lot more fun that pokey old Olympic wrestling. Everyone wins because everyone gets value. And the losers, most of all, because what other losers get paid the same amount as the winners? But the art of sport, the value of competition, is nothing sacred to you, Simonius? The glib man chuckled. Yes, my word, and your word, Xena. And you said you'd help me. Now, I'm not saying that you have to not do your very best. I'm not saying that you have to look at all weak. We'll throw in some interference that will cause you to lose. Everyone will win that way. The people threatened by powerful women will feel better, and the audience who will see a gallant and brave and courageous female in action will be inspired. Because you are an inspiration. You're the 10th wonder of the world. And who's the ninth wonder, Salmonius? Why, me, of course. Sheesh. He's done it. Salmonius had drained every bit of her righteous indignation. All that was left was her word, and that was sacred to her as well. He just asked her to fight. He hadn't asked her to win. All right, she said, all right. A half hour of my life, then I get to take a bath, right? Absolutely. With my own special bubble bath solution. Xena, all part of the package. Now, the Alexandrian athlete should be here, Annie. Suddenly the ground shook. Xena started. She looked around. Earthquake? No, it was just a pounding, not a continuing tremor. Xena! Bellowed a voice. I'm here to wrestle. Xena looked at Simonius. That's the Alexandrian athlete? No, I don't know what. Xena strolled over to the side of the ring. Standing at the top of the arena, all eyes turned his way, was a big, squat man holding a hammer. He wore a leather apron and heavy boots. The smell of ozone and hot coal hung in the air. That, said Salmonius, is the ugliest man I've ever seen in my life. No, that, said Xena, feeling her heart drop to her knees, is the ugliest god you've ever seen in your life. I am Hephaestus, cried the god, and I have heard the challenge of the warrior princess. I accept. The voice roared through the arena, and all of Bargos and a goodly portion of Greece. Eris could almost hear it, feel it, without the aid of Oberon's magical fairy contraption. This wrestling, said Ares, full of surprises. Who would have known they had a god on the card? That's Hephaestus, said Oberon, spilling his beer as he sat up from his chair. Isn't he the strongest god? No, I am, said Ares proudly. Yeah, right, because Xena kicked his ass. Ares ain't the strongest. Talk about the uppity. He's like the uppitiest head god in the world. Oberon waved the remark away. A god against a mortal and a mortal woman. But it's the fabulous Xena, Obi. In fact, I'm starting to realize that I'm going to lose the bet. She can beat Hephaestus in a heartbeat. Oberon was deathly still for a moment. Then he turned to Ares. You were gone an awfully long time, Ares, he said. What? Are you accusing me of cheating? Ares raised an eyebrow. Careful there, my friend. There haven't been any There haven't been fairy wars for a long time, like you say, but I think you'd look rather gallant in a general's uniform. Oberon shook his head. It's just a god wants to fight Xena? I don't understand, Ares. One word, Obi. Hubris. The woman's pride has brought down the wrath of the gods. No, it's Ares's manhandling or peddling. Harry grinned. And it looks like the wrath of the gods is just like life. Nasty, brutish, and short. I think Hephaestus needs to put a whooping on Ares, don't you think? The gods stomped down the steps of the arena. With every step that Hephaestus took, the place shook and rattled. There was a hush all over the stadium. People seemed petrified. This clearly was no ordinary wrestler. Here I am, cried a man running down from an entrance. I'm ready for battle. I am the Alexandrian athlete. Show me this woman, Xena. She's mine, said Hephaestus. He grabbed the Alexandrian athlete, held him up in the air for a moment, squirming and kicking, and then heaving him into the crowd. Xena nodded. Yep, that's Hephaestus, all right. A god of few words and fewer brains. I don't understand, said Salmonius. He turned to her, looking honestly terrified and apologetic. Xena, you have to believe me. I had nothing to do with this. I know it, and I'll forgive you if you'll grant me one wish, my friend. If I can, Xena, you want me? You want to know the back way out? No, I want out of my agreement to give my opponent over. Her eyes blazed. A god wants to wrestle me? Sure. Why not? But if a god wants to wrestle me and I win, I want to win clean. Oh, Xena, yes. Yes, of course. Just don't get hurt. I think it's a little too late for that, pal. Quickly, Xena divested herself of her sharp objects. Then she stepped to the ring, pulled herself up, and stood defiantly before the new arrival. Hey, Hephaestus! Wrong guy! I'm Xena, down here. It's called a mat. Sport. It's what you use when you wrestle. Don't trip on your shoelaces. The god looked down at his boots. They were tied well enough, but the alarm in his face caused the crowd to laugh. Arrgh! Hephaestus stepped down the stairs. When he was at the edge of the ring, Xena pointed at him. Hey, fella, no foreign objects. They're all Greek, rumbled the god. No, the hammer. Oh, Hephaestus dropped the hammer and then lumbered up into the ring. All right, Xena, come and get what you've been looking for. Looking for? I'm not looking for. Hephaestus lunged. This is getting exciting. It didn't take a genius to feel the god's power vibrating through the air. However, he'd gone totally physical so he could be fought. Xena could tell that much. That didn't mean he could be defeated. It just meant this would be a match. At the last moment before he could grab her, Xena ducked and hurled her weight at Hephaestus' ankles. The god went down, whacking into a turnbuckle so hard that it went down with him. The god followed it over the edge of the ring, pulling the ropes and the other turnbuckles to the ground. The god went wild with approval. The crowd went wild with approval. Xena ran over to the edge to jump on the guy to try and pin him, but he was already getting up. She backpedaled as he roared to the edge with surprising swiftness for his size. He got up into the ring again and regarded Xena. "You are good, Xena. I respect that. However, now you must have a little of that pride mashed out of you." He advanced. Xena let loose her war cry. She launched herself at the god. Her feet hit him square on the chest. He gave hardly at all, and rapidly Xena found herself on the floor. Before she could scrabble out of the way, the god's hands were down on her. She gasped as he winched her up from the floor. Then he tossed her into the crowd. She landed in a jumble of oofs and ohs. People were hurrying away. She was just getting back up, still conscious and ready to have at it, checking in with her inner self and ready to rip with some yip yip yips, sufficiently powerful to shred paint off walls. When two hands were laid upon her, Xena felt their presence immediately. She turned and beheld the source of all this power. Two feminine smiles. "Hi, babes," sounded a familiar voice. The other, of course, was none other than Aphrodite, a modest goddess, and hackles automatically rose just at the sight of all that makeup. "Xena, sweetie, you're fighting the good fight, to be honest. We came to cause mischief." "But something bad is going on," said Titania. "And it looks like it's boys versus girls. And we're rooting for you." Xena was about to refuse their help, but then she caught sight of a muscle-bound, matted god snorting her way. She could smell him already, and he smelled of sweat and blood and ages of inequality. "What? I get to go godlike like Callisto?" she said. "Well, I'm godlike," said Aphrodite, "and still I don't want to face combat with that likes of Hephaestus, no. Xena, just do what you do so well, and know that we're here." "Self-confidence, hon," said Titania. "It will work miracles." The hand of the god fell down upon her. "Nuts to that," cried Xena. "I want some magic." The god dragged her halfway down the aisle and then tossed her into the ring. He hopped up and said, "Lie down for me and this will go easier, woman." Ooh. Xena snarled. She picked herself up. "I'm not even into metal, guy." Hephaestus roared and charged her. The warrior princess charged as well. Only instead of meeting him halfway, she jumped, somersaulted, and sailed over him. She dropped a few yips along the way for good measure. She landed, turned, pounced. She caught the guy around the ankles and tugged. The result was profound. She had just enough strength to stop his feet. The rest of his bolt kept on going, and Mother Earth did the rest of her with her blessed gift of gravity. Wham! Hephaestus went down so hard he cracked a hole in the floor. The canvas sagged beneath him. Go, Xena, she heard Gabrielle yell, and it was enough to give her another lift. She got up and she jumped right into the god's head. Again, Mother E's gift pushed her down hard enough to mash Hephaestus's head, just raising up back into the mat. The crowd went crazy, yelling and screaming and roaring its approval. Xena danced a bit for them. Then just before the ham-like hands reached for her, she skipped back. She essayed the damage. Hephaestus got to his feet. He turned before he just looked annoyed. Now he looked mad. What's wrong with you, woman? He said. Are you crazy? You don't fight the gods, and you don't insult them either. I never insulted you, and I'm here to fight because I promised to fight. I didn't know it would be a god. Are you dim? The remark registered as an insult. Hephaestus stepped out of his hole. Xena danced back away from a blow and circled the ring, staying out of reach. How long she could keep this song and dance going, she had no idea, but probably not for long. In fact, as she turned, the god caught her by her hand and swung her around. He lifted her up, and this time there was no quick release. She turned Xena around and around and around, and pretty soon she felt as though her brains were going to get expelled from her ears. Then Hephaestus brought her down onto the mat so hard it broke again. Only this time there was a lot less godlike muscle to keep things together. Xena could feel her consciousness threatening to run away from this madness. Sheer ornery willpower kept her going. The big figure of the god was falling down upon her for the pin. No, he wasn't fooling around. Once that bolt got on top of her, there was no hope short of Zeus' intervention. Xena scrambled with all the speed she could muster. She pulled herself away. Hephaestus slammed down where she'd been with a gratifying oof. Xena backed up against the leaning turnbuckle. She climbed up the ropes and was about to make a suicide run at the god when suddenly she was aware that ringside were Aphrodite and Titania. Hey, Hef, cried Titania. Buckle up, yelled Aphrodite. They were standing right there, and they did the most astonishing thing that anyone had ever seen supernatural creatures do. Titania lifted her top and gave the god of metalworking a look at an astonishing naked pair of breasts. Aphrodite turned, leaned over, and mooned him with her bare buttocks. The god of fire stood, jaw dropping, frozen with astonishment. And then Xena noticed. Buckle up! The goddess of love had yelled, and sure enough, there was a buckle on Hephaestus' belt. Such was the god's build that the only thing that kept his pants up was that belt. Xena's mind was not slow. Knowledge was better than magic that any day. Xena attacked. With quick movements, her hands undid the buckle. Raging Hephaestus grabbed for her, but missed. She moved around, gave his pants one good, sharp tug, and again Mother Earth's good gravity helped out. The pants fell down. The god of the forge, it turned out, was wearing bright white and red polka dotted bikini underwear. Ooh. With a howl, he reached for Xena, but Xena jumped out of his reach. He cracked upon the floor. The whole arena fell into whoops of laughter. Hephaestus went bright crimson, all the more so to see Aphrodite pointing and laughing at him along with the rest of them. Hephaestus, said Xena, who put you up to this? Who told you I could beat you? I can't beat you. Ares. Ares said you needed taking down, said the god, getting up, and with that dignity he could manage, pulling up his trousers and rebuckling them. I'm so sorry. Ares has tricked me before as well. She shook her head. You're a good god, guy. I like you. Let's not fight, okay? It's not really fair for either of us, huh? Let's do what we do and be ourselves. If you want to fight, why don't you fight Ares? Now, I'd pay to see that. She's right, Hephaestus, called Aphrodite. I can get him if you like. How about a no disqualification match, huh? I put my money down on you for that. You would? Said the god. You're the best, Hef, said Xena. I'm glad you're here. I've never been able to tell you before how much I appreciate what you do. You work hard. You're beautiful, Hef. Absolutely beautiful. And you make beautiful things. I look up at Apollo every day, and I think how now the dawn and sunset and the sun itself would not be half so wonderful without a hard-working Hephaestus. The god of metal slammed a fist into her hand. Get him out. Let's do this. Oh, shit. This is awesome. This is so awesome. 2 days later, the party strode down the road from Burgos to Athens, relaxed, well-fed, happy and smiling. I still can't get over that fight, said Dr. Hephaestus just mopped the mat with Ares. I already have my story poem composed, said Gabriel. And then the mighty god of iron gave him a suplex, and Ares, champion of war, became a champion X. This is like the best chapter. This is the best chapter. The group chuckled. Xena most of all. She liked it when her friend and companion rhymed her verses, particularly when they were funny verses. Well, we'll never see the likes of that match again, said Xena, and from the look on Ares' face, I think we'd better avoid him for a while. I can't. Oh, I heard he's paying Oberon a huge amount for a PR. and campaign just to this spin control. I can't stop laughing. The shame. I'm sorry, but this is hilarious. Man, said Gabrielle. Song and poetry are so much more fun and creative than battle, even if it's fake battle. I guess there's not much of a future for professional wrestling, is there? Salmon, Salmonius, Salmonius. I'm giving it up. That's for sure, said the small man. He picked up a few troublesome feathers from his arms. I'm going to be taking baths all week in Athens. I itch. Tar as hell on my skin, Xena. Why did you let them do that? Better than the hanging that you probably deserved, Salmonius. Salmonius. The people of Borgos may have been entertained for a while, said Gabrielle. But I don't really blame them for being upset. That arena is going to cost a bundle to rebuild after Hephaestus and Ares tore it apart. The look on Ares' face when he got slammed through the latrines, says Cena. Aphrodite says, she, I can't, I just can't. I'm sorry. Aphrodite says she heard the gods themselves shortling. Even Hera was giggling. Xena, warrior princess, took in a big breath of Grecian air and looked up at the sky with wonder. Life seemed a little sweeter to know that there were gods who listened to reason, even if you had to pull their pants down first. But it was even sweeter knowing that some gods wore polka dotted underwear. Okay, okay. Uh, we got one more chapter. I'll just do the next chapter, like, edit video instead of doing it next week. Um, the Masked Singer may be returning, but I'd say this chapter, the 10th Wonder of the World, I have to think it's the funniest, the best chapter I've read. I've never been into a chapter as much as I was into this. It was just the look on Ares's face. Ares's face. Just imagine Hephaestus versus Ares. I want to see that match. I would love to see that match. Ares deserved that. Actually, I would like to see Ares versus Xena. If she could beat any god, she probably could beat Ares. She has a few times bested him. I mean, come on. Polka dotted bikini underwear. Not even briefs. Bikini. I mean, come on. That's like, wow. Oh, that was fun. That was the best chapter. The last chapter, again, I'm going to do a video of it probably later this week and post it up on here. So next week, we can start off something new. Masked Singer, I think, maybe starting next week. or so. I'll have to look into it. I had fun. It was fun. Okay. Ciao for now. And I hope y'all enjoyed the rest of the week. This was a good laugh. I really needed a laugh. Especially with some things I'm going through that's so confusing. And right now, I know my heart, I know myself. It's the intentions of some others that I'm kind of confused on for the time being. I'll figure that out. And ciao for now. And be happy. Be happy.